Nobody was supposed to see this. Not like this. Not unfiltered. Not raw. Because what just leaked from Backstage is fans asking one question that nobody in the industry wants to answer out loud. Did Cardi B really just disrespect a living legend right to her face, and then try to make it disappear? The video is short. Almost too short. But every second of it feels explosive. You see the moment. You feel the tension. And then something shifts. Something that people close to the situation are now desperately trying to control before it spirals completely out of control. Sources are already claiming that what we saw is being taken out of context. But others? They're saying this wasn't a misunderstanding at all. They're saying this was intentional, calculated, and, worst of all, caught on camera at the worst possible moment. Now insiders are whispering about frantic calls behind the scenes, posts being quietly deleted, narratives being rewritten in real time. And if what's coming next is true, then this isn't just about one awkward backstage moment anymore. This could turn into one of the biggest respect controversies we've seen all year, and it might already be too late to stop it. To understand why this moment is hitting so hard, you have to understand the unwritten rules of the industry, rules that nobody says out loud, but everybody follows. Respect is everything, especially when it comes to legends. The woman at the center of this controversy isn't just another celebrity walking backstage. She's considered a queen, someone who helped build the very platform that artists like Cardi B now dominate. Decades of influence, iconic moments, and a reputation that commands instant respect the second she steps into any room. And Cardi? She's always played the role of the disruptor. From the moment she entered the game, she made it clear she wasn't going to follow traditional rules. She built her brand on being loud, fearless, and unapologetically herself. Fans loved it. Critics questioned it. But one thing was always clear: Cardi knew how to stay in control of her narrative. But here's where things start to get complicated, because despite her bold personality, Cardi has also shown moments of respect toward the artists who came before her. Public shoutouts, on-stage tributes, even interviews where she acknowledged the influence of the very same legends now being dragged into this situation. So how did we get here? Insiders are now saying this tension didn't just appear overnight. According to one source, there have been subtle moments over the past year where things felt off. Nothing major, nothing headline-worthy, but enough for people in the industry to notice that the energy between Cardi and certain veterans wasn't as smooth as it seemed on camera. Another insider claims there were quiet conversations happening behind the scenes, questions about attitude, about respect, about how newer artists navigate spaces where legends are present. Still, nothing confirmed. Just whispers. Until now. Because the event where all of this went down wasn't just any event. It was a high-profile concert setting. The kind where everything is fast-paced, chaotic, and filled with high expectations. Backstage areas packed with artists, assistants, stylists, security, and cameras constantly moving. This is where reputations are tested in real time. You don't get second takes backstage. You don't get to rewrite what people see with their own eyes. And according to multiple reports, this moment was supposed to be the opposite of controversial. It was supposed to be respectful. A simple interaction between generations. A chance for a rising superstar to acknowledge a queen. The kind of moment fans love to see, bridging the gap between past and present. But instead, something shifted. One source described it as a change in energy you could feel instantly. Another said, the room went quiet in a way that didn't make sense. And what makes this situation even more intense is what happened immediately after. Because according to insiders, the second that interaction ended, people weren't celebrating, they were reacting. Quietly. Carefully. Like they knew something had just happened that wasn't supposed to happen. And then the footage started moving. Not publicly at first. Privately. Passed from phone to phone. Sent in group chats. Watched by people who suddenly realized they were looking at something that could turn into a major problem if it ever got out. And that's when the real tension began. Because now, it wasn't just about what happened in that moment. It was about who saw it, who had it, and whether it would stay hidden. And trust this. The version that leaked? People are saying that's only a small piece of what really went down backstage that night. This wasn't just another backstage moment. This was a ticking time bomb that had been building for years. And if you think what you saw in that viral clip was random, think again. Because to understand why this moment hit so hard, you have to go back to who was standing in that room and what they represent. On one side, you have Cardi B, one of the most explosive, unpredictable, and unapologetically loud voices in the industry. A woman who built her empire off raw honesty, viral moments, and a personality that refuses to be controlled. But on the other side, you have Patti LaBelle, a legend, a woman whose name carries decades of respect, discipline, and untouchable status in the music world. This wasn't just two artists meeting backstage. This was two completely different worlds colliding. And insiders are now saying this clash was inevitable, because behind the scenes, Cardi's rise has always been controversial. From explosive feuds, to courtroom battles, to constant social media chaos, she's built a career that thrives on attention, whether it's positive or negative. And while fans love her for being real, industry veterans? They've been watching quietly, waiting, questioning. There's been whispers for years that Cardi doesn't always follow the unwritten rules of the industry. The rules about respect, the rules about hierarchy, the rules about how you treat legends. And according to one insider, a lot of older artists feel like Cardi moves too fast, too loud, and sometimes too reckless. Now here's where things get even more interesting, because Cardi and Patti LaBelle were never enemies. In fact, they've crossed paths before, shared mutual respect publicly, even smiled together in past appearances. Which is exactly why this moment feels so shocking. Because nobody expected this kind of tension. And yet, if you look closer, the signs were always there. Cardi has always been someone who moves in chaos. Backstage environments, high-pressure concerts, last-minute changes, constant rushing, constant noise. That's her world. But Patti LaBelle? She comes from an era where everything is calculated, controlled, and deeply respectful. So when those two energies collided backstage that night, something was bound to go wrong. And according to multiple sources close to the situation, the entire backstage area was already under pressure before Patti even walked in. We're talking delays. We're talking fines hanging over the show. We're talking a team scrambling to get Cardi on stage before the venue started hitting them with penalties. One insider claimed everybody was stressed. Cardi was rushing. The team was yelling. Nobody was focused on etiquette, they were focused on survival. And that's when Patti LaBelle walked in holding a gift, expecting a moment. But instead, she walked straight into chaos. And here's where things start to feel uncomfortable. Because the video doesn't just show a rushed interaction. It shows hesitation. It shows distraction. It shows a moment that fans are now calling cold. Cardi takes the gift, but doesn't open it. She smiles, but something feels off. There's a pause. An awkward shift, a moment where even Patti herself seems unsure of what just happened. And then, the assistant walks through. No excuse me. No acknowledgement. Just straight through the middle of a legend. And suddenly, that small moment turned into a massive controversy. Because fans didn't just see a rushed backstage clip. They saw disrespect. They saw a new generation superstar allegedly brushing off a music icon. And within minutes, social media started exploding. People weren't just reacting, they were taking sides. Some were defending Cardi, saying she was under pressure, rushing, dealing with real consequences if she didn't get on stage. But others? They were furious, calling it unacceptable, calling it embarrassing, calling it proof that the industry has changed for the worse. And just when it seemed like this was going to stay a simple, awkward moment, something happened behind the scenes, something that made this situation way more serious than anyone expected. Because according to multiple reports, Cardi's team didn't just try to explain the situation, they allegedly tried to control the narrative. Messages started circulating. Clips started getting taken down. Certain angles of the video mysteriously disappeared. And suddenly, this wasn't just about disrespect anymore. This was about a cover-up. And the question everyone started asking was, what exactly are they trying to hide? And trust me, what came out next completely changed how people saw that moment, and it only made the situation worse. And this is where everything explodes, because what people first thought was just an awkward backstage moment suddenly turned into something much darker, much messier, and way more intentional than anyone expected. Because new footage didn't just surface, it leaked. And according to insiders, this was not supposed to get out. The original clip that went viral? That was only one angle. But behind the scenes, there were multiple cameras rolling, security cams, team footage, even a fan recording from a restricted section. And when those clips started circulating privately, the story completely changed. In the new angle, you don't just see Cardi B rushing. You don't just see confusion. You see something else. Something fans immediately called out as intentional energy. Because in this version, when Patti LaBelle steps forward with a gift, Cardi doesn't just delay opening it. She barely looks at it. There's a split-second moment, easy to miss if you blink, where Patti speaks and Cardi turns away. Not fully, but just enough to make people question everything. And that's when the internet lost it. Fans started replaying the clip frame by frame, zooming in, slowing it down, analyzing every movement like it was a crime scene. And then came the comments. Did she just ignore her? Why did she turn her head like that? That wasn't rushing, that was dismissive. But it didn't stop there, because within hours, a supposed insider dropped a message that made the situation even worse. The message read, Cardi was told Patti was backstage 10 minutes before she arrived. She chose to keep moving. The team knew. They didn't stop. Now suddenly, this wasn't about being rushed anymore. This was about priority. Because if Cardi knew Patti LaBelle was backstage, why wasn't everything paused? Why wasn't there a moment of respect? Why did it feel like Patti had to walk into chaos instead of being welcomed into it? And that's when the narrative started shifting hard. Because another alleged leak surfaced. A voice note, reportedly from someone on Cardi's team. In the audio, a voice can be heard saying, "Just get her through it. We don't have time for extra moments. She needs to hit the stage now." Extra moments? Is that what a legend is considered now? An extra moment? That one phrase alone sent shockwaves across social media. Fans weren't just upset anymore. They were angry. Because to them, this wasn't just disrespect. This was dismissal. And just when it felt like things couldn't get worse, another twist dropped. Because someone zoomed in on Patti LaBelle's reaction. And what they noticed changed everything. For a brief second, right after the assistant walks between them, Patti's expression shifts. It's subtle, but it's there. A pause, a look, a flicker of discomfort. And suddenly, the narrative flipped again. Because now people weren't asking, did Cardi disrespect her? They were asking, did Patti feel disrespected? And once that question hit the internet, there was no going back. Because clips of Patti from past interviews started resurfacing. Moments where she talked about respect, about professionalism, about how artists should carry themselves. And fans started connecting dots fast. This goes against everything she stands for. She looked uncomfortable. I'm sorry, she did. That wasn't okay. But here's where things take an even wilder turn. Because right in the middle of all this chaos, the original video started disappearing. Certain versions? Gone. Certain uploads? Taken down. Even fan reposts started getting flagged. And people immediately noticed. This is being scrubbed. They're trying to control it. Why are clips getting removed? And just like that, the controversy leveled up again. Because now it wasn't just about what happened in that room. It was about what was happening after. Why were certain angles harder to find? Why were some clips edited shorter? Why did it feel like someone was trying to clean this up in real time? And then came the biggest twist of this entire moment. A rumored internal message, allegedly sent within Cardi's team. That read, keep responses tight. Don't engage emotionally. Push the rushing narrative. Push the narrative? So now, people weren't just questioning the moment. They were questioning the response. Because if everything was truly innocent, why would there need to be a strategy? Why would there need to be damage control? And that's when fans started asking the question that changed everything. What really happened in those few seconds that they don't want us to fully see? Because if this was just a misunderstanding, why does it feel like something deeper is being hidden? And just when the situation was already at boiling point, social media didn't just react. It erupted, and what happened next pulled even more celebrities into the chaos. And just when it looked like the situation couldn't spiral any further, it did. Because within hours of the backstage footage going viral, the internet didn't just react. It fractured into full-blown chaos. On one side, fans were defending Cardi B, insisting the entire situation was being taken out of context. But on the other side, a growing wave of critics were calling it something much more serious, a controlled disrespect moment. And that phrase alone set everything on fire, because now it wasn't just about what happened backstage. It was about intent. Then the second wave hit. A new alleged leak appeared online, this time not video, but screenshots. Screenshots of a group chat allegedly tied to members of Cardi's touring team. And one message stood out immediately. Keep the Queen segment minimal. We're running behind. No long interactions. The word Queen instantly sent fans into overdrive because people began debating who it was referring to. Some said it was a reference to Patti LaBelle. Others argued it could have been a general production note. But the timing? The phrasing? The coincidence? Too much for the internet to ignore. And that's when the story mutated again. Because suddenly, it wasn't just fans reacting anymore. Celebrities started quietly stepping into the conversation. Not direct statements, not interviews, but cryptic posts. A well-known singer posted, "Respect is louder than performance." No names, no context, but everyone knew what it pointed to. Then a popular producer added fuel to the fire with, "Backstage tells the truth. Cameras only show part of it." And that's when things got dangerous. Because now the narrative wasn't controlled anymore. It was exploding in all directions. A fake but viral industry insider account claimed there was tension before Patti even arrived. It wasn't spontaneous. It was rush scheduling, but also selective timing. Selective timing. That phrase alone made people pause, because it suggested something deeper, that the meeting wasn't just disorganized, it was choreographed chaos. Then came the most shocking development yet. A short audio clip surfaced, grainy, unclear, but enough to ignite speculation. In it, a voice allegedly from backstage says, "She's here. Just keep it moving. Don't let it slow down." No names, no confirmation. But fans immediately started matching the voice to people in Cardi's circle. And once that happened, there was no stopping the collapse of narrative control. Social media turned into a battlefield. Hashtags started trending. Hashtag respect the Queen. Hashtag backstage truth. Hashtag Cardi explained. And every single one was pulling in millions of impressions within hours. But the most shocking twist wasn't even the leaks. It was the silence from Cardi's camp. Because normally, when controversies hit this scale, there's a response. A clarification. A statement. Something. But this time, nothing. And silence in celebrity drama is never neutral. It's fuel. It makes people speculate harder, dig deeper, invent more theories. And that's exactly what happened. One viral thread claimed, "This wasn't disrespect. This was brand control." Cardi's team is known for strict timing protocols. Patti's moment didn't fit the schedule. Another counter-thread argued, "No legend is out of schedule. That's not how respect works." And just like that, the debate stopped being about the clip. It became about values. Respect versus efficiency. Legacy versus management. Emotion versus control. And that's when things took an even darker turn. Because fans started noticing something strange. Older backstage clips from previous events started resurfacing. And people began comparing patterns. In multiple clips, assistants are seen rushing interactions, guiding celebrities quickly, minimizing conversations. And suddenly, the question wasn't just about this one moment anymore. It was about a system, a way of operating behind the scenes that fans were only now beginning to notice. And that realization changed everything. Because now people weren't just reacting emotionally, they were investigating. Frame by frame breakdowns, audio analysis, timeline reconstruction, even fake expert commentary videos started flooding TikTok and YouTube. And every new breakdown made the situation feel bigger, darker, and more intentional. Then came the most explosive twist yet. A supposed leaked production memo appeared online. It allegedly read, "Talent must maintain flow. No unscheduled interruptions. Priority is stage timing." But what made this different was the handwritten note at the bottom, even for special guests. And that line, that was the spark that lit the next explosion. Because fans immediately asked, does that include legends too? And if yes, then what does special even mean anymore? And just as the internet was reaching peak chaos, a final cryptic post appeared from someone claiming to be close to the situation. This isn't about disrespect. It's about what happens when two worlds meet and neither slows down. And that line, that one sentence, because in the leaked clip, Patti LaBelle could be seen smiling, acknowledging the rush, and even gesturing in a way that suggested understanding, not offense. And that single detail detonated the internet, because suddenly, the entire narrative of disrespect started collapsing in real time. Clips were being reanalyzed within minutes. Commentary videos were being deleted. Old viral posts were being walked back or edited. And fans who had been fully convinced just hours earlier were now asking the same question. Wait, did we all overreact? But just as that shift began spreading, another twist hit. A supposed production insider account posted a cryptic message. The first clip was never the full story. The second clip still isn't the full story either. And that sentence alone sent panic through the discourse. Because if both angles were incomplete, then what actually happened? Theories exploded again. Some claimed there was a third angle being withheld deliberately. Others insisted the entire incident was being manipulated by selective leaks. A smaller, louder group began arguing something even more unsettling. That this wasn't a disrespect moment, it was a misinterpreted production emergency. And that idea reframed everything. Now the urgency in the footage wasn't rudeness. It was scheduling pressure, coordination chaos, a live production moment collapsing under timing constraints. But even that explanation didn't fully calm the internet, because trust had already been broken. And once audiences feel misled, even clarification feels suspicious. Then came the final viral shift. A well-known entertainment commentator posted, "This is what happens when Backstage becomes public. Context dies first. Emotion survives everything else." That post hit millions of views instantly. And for a brief moment, the internet paused. Not because the drama ended, but because people weren't sure what they were actually watching anymore. And then, in the middle of that confusion, one last leak surfaced. A short audio clip, unclear, distorted, but enough to spark a new wave. A voice is heard saying, "Don't stop. Keep it moving. We fix it after." No names attached. No confirmation. But the implication was enough. Because now fans were split again. Was that fix it after about logistics or damage control? And that's where the story now sits, completely unresolved. No official statement. No final clarification. No definitive truth. Just layers of competing footage, conflicting interpretations, and a fanbase that no longer knows which version to believe. And somewhere in the middle of all this silence, the biggest question remains unanswered. Was this ever about disrespect at all? Or did the internet just turn a rushed backstage moment into a global controversy that no one can fully take back? And as more uncut footage is rumored to exist behind closed doors, one thing is clear. This story is not finished. It's still unfolding. And the next leak could change everything again. And right now, the internet is completely divided. And honestly, this is far from over. Because every new clip, every leaked angle, and every insider message is only making the story more confusing, not clearer. So I need you to tell me what you think. Was this really a disrespect moment behind the scenes? Or was it just a rushed backstage environment that got completely blown out of proportion online? Drop your opinion in the comments, because this is one of those situations where everyone is seeing something different. And here's the real question nobody wants to answer yet. If another uncut clip drops tomorrow, will it prove the truth, or will it just create a brand new version of the story again? Also, do you think Cardi B should officially respond, or is staying silent actually the smartest move right now? And what about Patti LaBelle? Does a legend like her even need to address something like this at all? I want to hear everything. Like this video if you want the next update the moment anything new drops. Subscribe so you don't miss the next part of this unfolding situation, because if history tells us anything, there is always another twist waiting right around the corner. And trust me, when that next clip comes out, you're going to want to see how deep this really goes. Change the entire direction of the controversy again, because suddenly, people weren't just blaming Cardi. They weren't just defending Patti. They were starting to believe something even bigger had happened behind that stage curtain, something no one was fully ready to admit yet. And that's where everything began heading into its most dangerous phase. By this point, the situation had completely escaped the control of anyone involved. What started as a short backstage clip was now a full-blown culture war across the internet, and every new hour only made it more chaotic. Supporters of Cardi B were flooding timelines, insisting the entire controversy had been twisted into something it never was. They argued one simple point over and over again. She was working, not disrespecting. But the opposition wasn't buying it, because for them, it was never just about work. It was about respect. And that's where things got emotionally explosive. Fans of Patti LaBelle began posting emotional messages about legacy, calling her untouchable and a living standard of grace. One viral post read, "You don't rush a legend. You make space for her." That line alone crossed millions of views in hours. And suddenly, the internet split into two emotional camps. Camp 1, professionalism comes first. Camp 2, legacy comes first. And neither side was backing down. Then mainstream media jumped in. Entertainment outlets began releasing analysis pieces breaking down the footage frame by frame. Some headlines suggested miscommunication. Others hinted at backstage pressure and scheduling chaos. But none of them had clarity. And that lack of clarity only made things worse. Because now, every theory felt valid. Every opinion felt justified. And every clip felt like evidence. Then celebrities started reacting indirectly. A well-known hip-hop artist posted, "Respect is not about timing. It's about recognition." No names. But no one needed names anymore. Another pop figure added fuel with, "Backstage energy tells you everything you need to know." And that was enough to send the conversation spiraling again. Meanwhile, TikTok creators were dissecting every second of the footage. Slow motion breakdowns, audio enhancements, zoomed-in lip-reading attempts. One viral creator claimed, "You can literally see the shift in body language when she walks in. That says everything." But another responded, "You're projecting meaning onto a 2-second interaction." And suddenly, even content creators were fighting each other. The internet had turned into a courtroom without rules. Then came the fan theories. Some people claimed the entire situation was exaggerated on purpose to generate buzz around Cardi's ongoing tour. Others insisted it was a manufactured misunderstanding caused by rushed production scheduling. A smaller group believed something more dramatic, that someone backstage deliberately framed the moment to create controversy. That theory went viral instantly, because it introduced something darker: intentional sabotage. And once that idea entered the conversation, everything changed tone. Now, people weren't just debating respect, they were questioning motives. And trust started collapsing. Even neutral fans admitted they didn't know what to believe anymore. Then a new wave hit social media. Screenshots allegedly from industry group chats began circulating again. One message stood out: "Media will spin it. Let it cool down before responding." That line triggered even more suspicion, because "let it cool down" implied strategy, not accident, not misunderstanding, control. And that's when the silence from Cardi's camp became the loudest part of the story again. No interviews, no clarification, no official response, just silence. And silence in a viral controversy is never empty. It gets filled by speculation, by anger, by imagination. And that's exactly what happened. Then something unexpected entered the conversation. A veteran music journalist posted, "People are missing the bigger picture. Backstage isn't a social space. It's a high-pressure machine. Not everything is disrespect. Sometimes it's logistics." That post went viral instantly because it introduced doubt back into the narrative. And now the internet was divided in a completely different way. Was this a disrespect issue or a misunderstanding of industry chaos? That question split audiences even further. Some fans started defending Cardi harder than ever. Others doubled down on the legend deserves space argument. And in the middle of it all, the truth got buried under opinion wars. But the most explosive moment came when an anonymous tour crew account posted, "There was no disrespect intended, but there was pressure. And pressure makes everything look different depending on which side you're standing on." That single sentence shifted the entire energy again, because it didn't confirm anything, but it didn't deny anything either. It just added more ambiguity, and that ambiguity was gasoline. Now, even fans who had picked sides were starting to question everything again. And just when it looked like the conversation might stabilize, a new teaser clip from another backstage angle was rumored to be circulating privately among industry insiders. No one had seen it publicly, but everyone was talking about it. And according to whispers online, that clip might change the entire interpretation of what really happened behind that curtain. And just when everyone thought the chaos had reached its peak, the situation took a turn nobody saw coming. Because a new piece of footage didn't just surface online, it was quietly leaked into private industry circles first, before somehow breaking containment and slipping onto social platforms for a short, explosive window. And what it showed completely changed the direction of the entire controversy. The clip, reportedly filmed from a different backstage angle, showed the exact same moment everyone had been dissecting, but this time, the framing was different. There was no dramatic push, no visible tension, no clear sign of disrespect. Instead, what people saw was something far more complicated. A fast-moving production environment, crew members rushing, people coordinating under pressure. And in the middle of it all, Cardi B appearing briefly focused on timing cues rather than interactions. But the real shock wasn't even Cardi. It was what happened in the background,